I'm sure they do the same thing at all the Desert Storm and Boyne, but for us, being around here and being able to experience that, you're not going to see that amount of horsepower anywhere else around here off the street that you can walk right up to.
Yeah. Yeah, and the accessibility to the owners, including American Ethanol.
Yeah, the rigs that they have are amazing. Speaking of American Ethanol, I always wondered, what other races do they race?
It's a great question. The answer is 0.
0?
That boat, along with several others, I'm told, I don't know which ones, were built specifically for this one race. August at the lake means 2 very different emotions.
Yeah, you could say that.
You've got the high of the greatest week of the year at the Lake of the Ozarks.
Shootout month.
Everybody knows it's all about Shootout this month on our channel with a sprinkle of a market update. And then, of course, you've got the unofficial end of summer.
Yeah.
For most Lake of the Ozarkers.
Kids go back to school and things start to wind down.
It's not the end of the summer for you and I, though.
Hey-o.
So,
by the way, welcome to my side of the lake.
That's right.
I'm about 1.5 miles in on the Glaize arm. Right now you're out at Old Kinderhook. Where's that at on the Angler?
12 and a half.
12 and a half. So 12 and a half to get back to the
31.
Four Corners at the 31. And then we're at the 19-mile marker off the main lake to get to the Glaize
So there's
arm.
24 plus an hour mile in, it's 25 miles plus. Now, this is a strategic location. We are actually sitting here right inside the Glaize arm. So you can't see behind us here. It's over here is the Glaize Bridge. And if you're paying attention, you know exactly why we chose this location. Doing a lot of interviews all about the Shootout. And we are sitting at ground zero. We are actually sitting in a spot on the Shootout course that you cannot access as a spectator this year. This is the new spot. It's gonna run from that way to this way. And this is the finish line right behind us.
Over here by the moorings?
Correct. And so this is new, as you know. It's one part exciting, one part scary. It's different. We're going to show you the overhead views of what this looks like. But I wanted to, as y'all know, I've been interviewing the Jeff Dorhauers, the Mark Mawsons. We're going to probably interview one of the legendary racers, amongst other people, some of the people heavily involved with the charities. So I thought, we've got to do the market update. It's August. We've got to talk about July. So why not get the perspective of somebody who has lived here most of his entire life, is what I would say, a passive Shootout fan?
Yeah, we've been to Shootout, plenty of times.
You're not a dieharder.
Not as much now because we're working on the weekends. Shootout is a very big thing for people to come down and spend the weekend tied up and hanging out and doing all that stuff. A little bit different when you have kids and regular life going on and you're full-time down here. I mean, I just have very fond memories of when it was at Shooters 21. It was phenomenal. You could go to Shooters, you could sit there, you could watch the whole thing.
And you didn't live here.
No, I lived here.
But no, actually, I mean in this spot.
I lived up the hill from the house that we're in now.
Ah.
So yeah, my parents bought that house in '82.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had been in Osage Beach since we moved down here from St. Louis when I was 2.
So you were 2 miles from the Shootout.
Yep, pretty close to it. And man, I tell you what, Shooters had some really good chicken wings. I remember that.
I never went.
That's where I watched Miss Budweiser, which was a sight to see. I mean, that thing was so cool, that hydroplane boat. And then
she was like the first of her kind. That's really what they say took the Shootout to another level. That's when they knew something was going to happen.
Yeah, I've been to watch Spirit of Qatar with...
You watched Spirit of Qatar live or at a bar?
Live at Shooters.
And that was what, 13, I think?
It was a few years ago. I'd
12
have to...
maybe? I think it was 13 or 14. That was well after Shooters was closed.
No, Shooters was still open.
When did Shooters close?
Boy, that's another good question. It was shortly after Spirit of Qatar ran.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. We'd have to do some Google and machine on that one.
Yeah.
And figure that one out.
I'm sure somebody watching is yelling at the TV right now saying, damn it, I know exactly when it goes.
Somebody will correct us in the comments.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, because the change from Shooters as the headquarters location was 08 to Captain Ron's.
Yep. So it was right before 08 when Spirit of Qatar ran. So Captain Ron's, I mean, you talk about vastly different locations from Shooters 21 to Captain Ron's.
Yeah.
Much bigger grounds. That's when Shootout really got big because they had the footprint for it.
Yeah.
I always missed being able to watch the Shootout from the venue.
Because
one of the downsides
Yeah.
of Captain Ron's.
Yep.
But man, he just had so much room for everybody over there. It worked out really good for a lot of years.
Yeah.
So as of life, change happens.
Yep.
And so now it will be interesting this year. There's going to be some pros to it, and there's going to be some cons to it, and a little bit of a learning curve for the first year for them. So.
And I've talked about that, so I don't have to bring it up again about all of the different reasons why the change has happened. But from your passive lake perspective, you are, again, an OG here. You've been here most of your life. You know this place like the back of your hand. When you think of the three locations, how would you rate this? How would you stack this up? Knowing, where we are, knowing that it doesn't appear to be as big of a footprint as the Ron's space. However, it's off the main channel, which is also the first time it's ever been off the main channel. What's your take on this move? What do you think?
I think it's neat. Just with different change, there's different opportunities. Now things being more in the heart of things in Osage Beach. The downside is not as much of the West Side business gets that exposure. It all comes down to why do we do this in the first place?
Yes.
And it's all for raising money for the local charities. The guys being able to run the boats and have bragging rights is a great byproduct of that.
Yeah.
So wherever it's at Lake of the Ozarks, it's always going to be awesome. It's going to be vastly different from this year, from 10 years from now, when they get a lot of things figured out.
Yeah.
So it'll be a really cool evolution, just like everything is.
Yeah. Yeah, the one thing about this location that you didn't get at Ron's, that you will get when Oasis opens, is going to be rooftop viewing, which they say is going to be probably going to be a VIP spot or something.
Yeah.
But it's just right up over that hill.
Man, it would have been awesome if they could have run it down the main channel right underneath the Glaize Bridge. That would have been, if you could have seen it from Dog Days, Oasis, Lands End, Topsider people, that would have been a sight to behold.
Also never going to happen.
A little too small.
They actually, the funny story, and Mawson talked about this on the episode right before this one, that when they switched from shooters, there were 3 people in the running. It was Camden. It was Camden on the lake, 2 rough water up there.
Yep.
It was Dog Days, and it was Ron's. And at the time when they thought about this, they liked this location, but they hadn't thought of this because it was a mile course then. This wasn't long enough. So the only way they were going to run it from Dog Days was under the bridge, and that got squashed immediately by Water Patrol, and then it made it an easy decision to go down to Ron's.
Gotcha.
Pretty fascinating, huh?
Yeah.
So, last question. Are you going to come out and watch the shootout?
Well, it's going to be fascinating for us because it's right at the top of our cove. Literally, Jeff just showed me the new map for it, and it's at the front of our cove. So we're going to be the hub spot for Lake Expo crew, and then also Lake TV crew coming in and out, doing different stuff. It might be a good dock day for us.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll idle up. It'll be interesting to see how they handle us coming from the back of our cove, but we can flip it on the TV and watch it there from the dock, have the smoker rolling, and I'm sure our dock will be full. It'll be an interesting one this year.
Last question. We're just talking about the races because, of course, we're sitting here out on the channel where it's going to happen, right? We're sitting on the race course. It's an entire week-long's worth of events. Talked about this ad nauseum. I think I know the answer to this question for good reason, but what is your favorite day of Shootout Week?
Ooh, not as easy as what you think.
Really?
Because if I've helped out with Wishing on a Ride before, and that was amazing. To help kids and families onto speedboats that they'd never ventured onto before, it just really hit you at the heartstrings for what we are doing here.
Yeah.
It was very cool. Second runner-up to that is the start of the poker run.
Yeah.
And we've co-sponsored this this is probably our 5th year, just off the top of my head, with Polylift. The start, when you take off in different stages, and I mean, boats are heading out of the hole, it is just an amazing feeling to be on a boat. I'm sure we'll shoot some more footage of that this year.
Heck yeah, I told Annie, we talked about that, and I said, I think this year I'm gonna be on a helicopter. Sucks to have this job. But I told her, I said, I don't think I'll be on the helicopter all day, so I'm gonna have to find you guys and hook up, and maybe I'll have the helicopter come drop me at whatever bar you're at, and I'll just jump out of the helicopter into the water, and that would make for some dramatic footage.
Yeah, that would be that's going to be an experience of a lifetime, for sure.
I'm excited for it.
No, we've been on many different boats for the start of that thing, and it's hard to compare that to. I mean, I've raced dirt bikes, we've raced cars. That start and they go off in different stages, so there's not too many people taking off at once. But it's a once in a year experience to do that.
I agree, and I was fortunate enough and thankful that I got to experience it with you guys last year. Okay, so last question.
There'll be more.
I promise. This is the last one about the shootout. You didn't mention what many say is their favorite favorite day, favorite event at the shootout, which is the street party. Do you guys participate in that?
We do from time to time. It depends on what we have going on in life with kids. Weather. I would like to make it this year. Schaefer hasn't been down there that probably he can remember seeing those boats. I'm sure they do the same thing at all the Desert Storm and Boyne, but for us, being around here and being able to experience that, you're not going to see that amount of horsepower anywhere else around here off the street that you can walk right up to.
Yeah. And the accessibility to the owners, including American Ethanol.
Yeah, the rigs that they have are amazing. Speaking of American Ethanol, I always wondered, what other races do they race?
It's a great question. The answer is 0.
0?
That boat, along with several others, I'm told, I don't know which ones, were built specifically for this one race. That's
one race,
it.
one mission.
Don Onken is going to go down as probably a legend as it relates to boat owners for what he's done and the amount of money he spends out of his pocket to make 0 in return.
Wow.
And drive the excitement that is driven here, because everybody stops. You know, there's a lot of people that are at the shootout just to hang out and party. Everybody stops what they're doing, jumps out of the boat, pays attention when ethanol runs.
Yeah, so he's the one that's kind of carried the torch since the Bud Select boat?
Other than maybe Qatar.
Yeah, so Qatar...
But Qatar was like one and done.
It was phenomenal to watch that thing with the turbines spool up, and then Bud Select was right in there, and then InBev bought out AB.
Then they got rid of all
that
stuff.
Went all away.
Yep.
So yeah, he's really carried the torch for the name for Shootout for quite a few years, and what keeps people interested in it. Like you said, you're in the water playing music, you start to hear that thing and everybody's attention goes to it.
100%.
Now we had more competition this year, didn't we?
This year will be the first year that I think we can truly say we don't know who's going to get Top Gun. And there's multiple boats, I'm told 5 or 6 that are going to run over 200 miles an hour. And of course, Qatar's back. And so now Qatar did the 246 on a mile course. So now it's a 3/4 mile course, but it's a new owner. And so that also could play a role. Maybe they don't have super comfort with the boat yet, but they bought that boat when he bought that boat with one thing in mind: to bring it back to the shootout. It's an owner out of Ohio.
Really?
Yeah. Not wild?
Huh.
Yeah, you can go Google it. You'll pull up the Lake Expo article about it. You can read about this guy. I think he's in the boating business of some sort, and he bought ethanol, and he said his primary function. I'm not ethanol. Sorry, Qatar, Spirit Qatar. And I don't think ethanol's for sale, or ever will be. But I'm really curious, if ethanol gets beat, how do they take that?
Ooh, you gotta lace your shoes back up and come back next year.
Then again, ethanol ran 220 something last year. They're probably gearing up for 230.
I hope so.
It's hard to go that much faster on 3/4 of a mile.
That's
now America One, allegedly before it took off into space,
took flight.
Was at about 220. Allegedly, and they had the speedometer, and so I don't think they're going to run this year, but if they run, that boat, Jesse, I don't know if you know this, was built for one reason: not to beat ethanol, to break Qatar's record. You know why? They want the record to be an American-born boat.
Oh man, how cool would that be?
Yeah.
That would be fitting for Lake of the Ozarks.
Amen. And it's Kansas City based, which is Missouri based, which is cool. So enough about the shootout. We've talked about it. We're going to continue to talk about it even after this episode. Let's get into, again, we are now moving towards the end of summer. So we've got the middle of summer market report. Is activity up, man?
Tale of two markets. You got Lakefront homes, Lakefront condos. And as we've been seeing, there's been a bit of disparity throughout the year for them. While national real estate experts continue to forecast 1.5% to 2% home price appreciation through the remainder of 2025. We've got our two markets here between the Lakefront homes and Lakefront condos. Starting off with Lakefront homes, compared to July 2024, new Lakefront home listings saw a 27% increase with 127 listings this year versus 98 last year. Overall, year-to-date, new listings have increased by almost 15%. There are 102 more Lakefront homes on the market compared to this time last year, now totaling 419 Lakefront homes on the market, a level not seen since June of 2020.
Which was the beginning of COVID.
Beginning of COVID. So Lakefront homes aren't quite back to pre-COVID levels yet. In July 2025, the median Lakefront sale price increased by 3.15%, reaching $646,000. This is an increase from July 2024. Median sale price was $599,500. Year to date, our median sale price for Lakefront homes is up 2.5%. This is always interesting, the difference between the average and the median, and it speaks to our luxury market. Our average sale price year to date $889,259. So that disparity between median sale price and average just shows how much luxury market that we have that pulls up that average.
Can you define the difference between median and average?
So the median, you're going to kick out the highs and you're going to kick out the lows, and you're going to see what the middle of the market is, which pertains to much more of what Lake of the Ozarks homeowners are facing and negotiating in.
Median's more of a real number, whereas average takes that 15 million and includes it in the numbers.
Yeah, you sell a property at 8 or 15 million and it really pulls that average up. So our average sale price year to date is up almost 13% over last year for lakefront homes. Woo! Which just shows the strength of what our market is for sales, especially for what that has done compared to sales. Lakefront home sales were up by 3 homes this July over last. Year to date, lakefront home sales are down by only 13 homes, which is a little less than 4%, but price appreciation keeps going on. So buyers that are out there that say, hey, I think I want to wait until rates come down, you're missing the train. The prices are still going up higher and higher. And what's going to happen when those rates go down? There's going to be more people jumping the market, and that price appreciation is going to go higher and higher.
A lot of people sit on the sidelines.
Lakefront homes average days on market was flat is this time last year, 34 days. Year to date, we're up 10% to 44 days on market. List to sale price ratio is down from last month by not quite a full percent, but it's still up over a quarter point from last July. Currently, we're at 96.09%. So this means if your home was listed at $100,000, on average, it would sell for $96,090. So I use this metrics to help convey a message to both buyers and sellers of how much negotiating is happening in the market in order to get that home from list price to what it actually closes at. So a lower listed sale price ratio, sellers are more negotiable. Lakefront home volume in terms of dollars traded has expanded by almost 9%. So our lakefront home market is almost up 9% this year. Lakefront homes for sale by price bracket, 300,000 to 499, 68 homes, down 1 from last month. 500 to just under 750, 70 homes, up 4 from last month. 750 to just under a million, 64 homes.
Which is now the average sale price bracket.
Yep, 64 homes in that bracket, down 3 from last month. 1 million to 2 million, 52 homes, down 4 from last month. 2 million to 5 million, 45 homes, up 2 from last month. And over 5 million, 7 homes available. 334 in total current available lakefront homes, down 3 from last month. 168 of these listings have reduced their price. That's just over 50% of lakefront homes have had a price reduction that are active on the market. So while the lakefront home market shows a healthy price appreciation with increased inventory providing options, however, the 8 months of supply and over half the listings having price reductions, buyers have more negotiating power than we've seen in years. Sellers should price strategically, while buyers should act on well-priced properties as appreciation continues. Now shifting over to lakefront condos, the other market. New listings in July 2025 were up 12% with 102 new condo listings compared to 91 in July 24. There are 157 more condos on the market compared to this time last year.
Wow.
A high last seen in August of 2017.
2017, wow, we're almost going 10 years.
2017, yeah. Median sale price for lakefront condos saw an all-time high back in April this year at $371,000, and we've seen a drop down to July is at $320,000.
Wow, $51,000 drop.
Our low was this year back in February at $290,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, okay, dead of winter.
Last July, the median sale price was $339,000.
So we're almost like back in line.
We're dropping below where we were last year, and that hasn't been happening too much. But I've seen in the past few months that number was reining in, and we finally crossed it. Condo sales were down by 20% this July compared to last at 47 condo sales. There have been 49 fewer condos sold this year to date, down by 15%, and with 157 more condos available. So now we're just really getting into that supply and demand laws of economics. Average days on market for condos actually dropped 1 day to 65 average days compared to last year at 66 days. List to sale price ratio was down by 2% from last month alone. July 2025, we are at 95.16%. Last July, we were negotiating at 96.55%. Year to date, we're negotiating a full percent lower. Months of supply for condos pulled back a little this June, July at 11.5 months compared to 11.7 months in May. Lakefront condo volume has contracted by 16% so far this year. So it's been a tough year for condos, and a lot more options out there for buyers. Lakefront condos available by rooms. 2 bedrooms available, 131, down 1 condo from last month. 3 bedrooms, 251, up 3 condos from last month. 4 bedrooms available, 24, down 2 condos from last month. 433 active lakefront condo listings, 1 less than last month. 212 of these have dropped their price,
Wow.
49%.
I feel like that number though has stayed steady, that 420 number.
Since I started tracking it last month.
Is that what? Oh, huh.
I always, every time I go through numbers, I try to look at it at a different angle.
I thought you were going to say last year.
In how I convey this information with sellers, just so they're more in tune with the market. I would say, in my recent experience, buyers are more in tune with the market as what sellers are. Sellers still have this idea of what one sold for before, and they want to list for that amount. Buyers see all the different options out there for what their money can buy them, and they weigh those options heavily compared to different condo complexes that have elevators, different locations, and they are negotiating right now. So if you want to sell your condo, you have to have really good presentation, you have to have top-notch promotion, which that's what we do here at Lake Expo Real Estate in conjunction with lakeexpo.com. and Fitzer Media. I'm sure you guys see all my videos on social media thanks to this guy. And then pricing. Pricing with I hope to get this price, or if I'll sell if I get this price, it's not working in today's market. You have to be priced competitively with your competition. And that, what buyers are willing to give out there is dependent on their current options. And buyers are very in tune with that. Some key takeaways for buyers for lakefront homes: while inventory has increased and you have more negotiating power, prices continue to appreciate. Well-priced properties still move quickly. For condos, exceptional buyer's market with extensive inventory and pricing flexibility. Take time to evaluate your options, but don't over-negotiate a fairly priced unit. This past week, I submitted a full price offer on a condo because it fit the buyer's criteria to a T, and they were priced extremely competitive to the other options in their market. And that buyer was afraid that there would be other buyers jump into that one. So condos priced right, still a market out there for them. For sellers, for lakefront homes, priced strategically from day one. The market rewards competitive pricing with quicker sales and stronger final prices. For condos, realistic price is essential. With 11 plus months of supply, overpriced properties will sit while competitive ones continue to sell. Despite increased inventory in both segments, our lakefront market fundamentals remain sound with continued price appreciation expected through 2025. We'll see what happens with the condo market. The key is understanding which segment you're in and adjusting strategy accordingly. And for my buyers and sellers, I do a once a week update of what's happened for the past week for their market bracket. What's new to the market, what's gone under contract, and what is sold. I shoot that off in an email, much like how this market update goes out on our newsletter. Then I follow that up with a phone call for all my sellers and all my buyers that are under contract. That way, me and you stay on the same page and we can move quickly as the market is.
So what is your expectation now moving out of summer?
So typically we're gonna hit a little bit of a lull. We've got some still high demand season to go. Once the kids start going back to the softball, baseball, football, all the school sports, it's going to slow down here for a little bit, and then we're going to get our second flush of inventory for people that said we just wanted to use the lake house one last summer. Now that the season's done, we're ready to put it on the market. So we'll have a fall selling season go through with that, and then things will start to tail off a little bit through Thanksgiving. That's why I tell all my buyers our highest negotiating time is Q4 and Q1. Unfortunately, that's typically the least desired inventory that's out there. But the people that are on the market in those times, they're ready to make a sell. They're on there for a reason. Condos, I don't know. I think it's going to be a tough year riding out for them.
Yeah.
The biggest thing, obviously, if we could get some interest rate drops, it's going to help everybody, no matter if you're trying to sell cars, houses, anything.
Yep. And I still have my finger on that pulse. And there was the jobs report that just recently came out, which was really bad, should have a reverse positive effect on pressure to the Fed to drop rates.
I had seen a 10-month low come through on my phone this morning for a 30-year mortgage at 6.57%.
It's amazing that that's low, but it is, it's fairly.
Yeah. So that's going to help everything in every segment. We could use some more insurance providers for condos. That would be their next help. If we could lessen HOA burden, especially on insurance, make that entry more affordable. HOA prices are on buyers' mind up front from the beginning of the conversation. Jesse, I don't want to look at condos that have over X amount a month for an HOA fee. So and that's out of a seller's control, really. So when our fee is higher than the market, we have to price our condo accordingly. Lakefront homes, I don't see anything holding it back. I don't know if our number of sales will eclipse last year. I felt like we had a delayed spring in the buyer market. People were taking their time, geopolitics, there was a lot of things going on. With the strength that we've had through the middle and now going into the back half of the year, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we have more sales in the lakefront market. And our volume is up 8% this year. So the lakefront home market is still very strong. I do have a lot of sellers that are buyers. They want to sell a condo, move into a lakefront home. Yeah. So if some of that gets freed up with interest rates, I think it'll be a much better end of the year for everybody.
Good. I'm excited to have more positive conversations because we're going to talk a lot more about the growth and the updates on things that are happening down here in the fall. But I think we're going to see we're going to have another influx at some point. I don't know when that is, but.
And if you want to work with me, I promise I take the emotion out of it. I go off facts and data. I won't sugarcoat it for you. If you ask me how the market is, I'm not just going to say it's great. Jesse, we want to make an offer on this house. How much do you think we should give? Full price. That's not me. We slow things down a little bit. Look at the data, see what buyer appetite is currently, and make strategic offers. And then also when we go into listings. And for our listings, we do a little bit more homework than anybody else does around here to have you stand out from the crowd to get your house sold for a higher price in fewer days on market. If you're interested in any of the market data that I've given you, have questions on what this data means for the valuation of your property, feel free to reach out to me, 573-260-0868. Shoot me an email, Jesse, Jesse, at lakeexporealestate.com. I get emails every week from people that watch this YouTube video and just want to say, hey, how much is my condo worth?
God bless them.
I can run a review on a condo complex pretty quick, just to let you know what your complex market has been doing. So give me a shout. Love to hear from you.
I'm going to end this video like we've never ended it before. We will see you in September.